Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is now just 2 weeks away from its official release by Disney, Lucasfilm, J.J. Abrams, and even creator George Lucas. That is all sitting ready to end the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 that a lot of fans are very concerned about has all to do with exactly how J.J. Abrams is going to utilize the entire film when it comes to the revelations, the twists and turns, and how certain segments of this movie are also going to retcon elements of, the sequels, the originals, and even the prequels partially. When we look at the entire Skywalker saga, there will be elements in this movie that will actually change in and on its own based on the events that happen in Episode 9. Now, with that being said, we also know that Disney and Lucasfilm went through many different changes and adjustments throughout the months of August, September, and October to really change the overall tone of this movie, and it really seems to have been done in a way that's not going to sit well with a lot of fans out there, that caters to identity politics and everything else related to Disney's agenda that goes past storytelling. Now, with that being said, what's really intriguing about this is that it's explained that through many of the changes and adjustments of the film, it's said that these changes and adjustments were mainly made by Disney and Lucasfilm to restructure the plot of the film, primarily in the second and third acts of the movie. It said that these major changes were done by Kathleen Kennedy and Disney to make the film cater to a general audience. Along with these changes, it led to the cancellation of many scenes for those acts to have more scenes that would involve identity politics and to focus more on diversity. It said that one of the major scenes that were deleted from the film had to do with Luke Skywalker actually appearing in front of Palpatine and Palpatine's throne room, where Luke would use a power from the Journal of the Wills, where Luke would be able to materialize himself as coming back to life temporarily to fight Palpatine and to help Kylo and Rey in the throne room battle. Now, this sequence was said to have been deleted to focus more on another scene with the Resistance and identity politics, with Disney exploring real-world events and real-world politics in the film, where it's explained that this all has to do with the Resistance fighting on top of a Star Destroyer, and that particular scene contains real-world conflicts that will be sent out as a message by Disney in the movie. Now, it's explained that this was the reason as to why that Luke scene in particular was cut, that was directed by George Lucas, was for Disney to focus on a scene affiliated with the Resistance and their battle on Exegol that would contain identity politics and also promote diversity in the scene that goes past proper storytelling. One of the scenes in the film is also said to involve a segment on the world of Exegol, and during the final battle of the film, where it said that Disney and Lucasfilm focus on two unknown characters in the film that is described to support the LGBTQ community in a direct way during the battle on Exegol. Now, this decision was said to have been done by J.J. Abrams and applies to what J.J. stated a couple of days ago, that the film will address and support the LGBTQ community. One of the other scenes in the current version of the film, in the very beginning of the film, is that it's actually said to be a scene based within the ship of the Tantive, where also it taps into identity politics and Disney's agenda that are promoting in the film quite directly to the audience to reach out to a general public. It's said that this scene is said to also tap into real-world conflicts that will be addressed in the forms of dialogue when the characters have a discussion on the Tantive in the very beginning of the film at the very end of the first act of Episode 9. Kathleen Kennedy was said to have a massive role in this hand, all of which is actually to change the tone of the film and to actually focus more on the film as a way to send out an important message to the people. The film's current cut is said to greatly differ from the initial cut before the major changes by Disney and Lucasfilm, and that these changes were also done during the month of November, when they were actually reconstructing the plot of the film to cater to a general audience, and once it arrives this December. So let's go over a couple of parts about this and as to why I think that this is a terrible thing for Disney to do. Now, obviously, I don't have a problem against, the LGBTQ community at all in any way, shape, or form. Anybody can go about their own business and do their own thing. But what I do have a problem with is where they focus on this past proper storytelling, where they're focusing on Star Wars and the Star Wars brand as a way to send out their own message, to send out their own agenda, to focus on identity politics, and to cut specific scenes that belong to Luke and others out there, to focus on other scenes related to the resistance on the world of Exegol and the resistance within the 10T4 and within the resistance base. I think that this is a very big, big bad decision by Disney and Lucasfilm. The fact that they really are, trying to focus on, those messages in this movie, it doesn't feel right at all. I will say that, when we look at these Star Wars movies, it really is quite apparent that they are looking at this past proper storytelling in many different segments. I mean, The Last Jedi, I think, is a prime example of exactly what they did with the Casino City of Canto Bight and other characters like Vice Admiral Holdo and other aspects of The Last Jedi that we have talked about before in the past that were really weak for that movie. And the fact that they're tapping into this even more so with The Rise of Skywalker and how a lot of the ideas about this are coming from J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, it just shows us that they do have a plan that goes beyond proper storytelling. And like I say, I have nothing against people that are associated with that community, with the LGBTQ community, but when you focus on that more, then proper storytelling is where I have a big problem with a Star Wars movie. Again, this is Star Wars, a lot of fans are going to see this movie to have a fun time, to focus on Star Wars, not to be reminded of real world, conflicts, and not to be reminded about identity politics and all these different aspects. I think it's really just kind of getting pathetic at this point, to be honest. I think it's getting out of hand and it needs to be stopped. There needs to be a pushback to the point where we can go back to the way films were made, over 10 years ago, where we didn't have to rely on these agendas by these big Hollywood, production companies making these movies and using their films as a way to really send out their message. And we've seen Hollywood make a complete 180, for the past couple of years, give or take, where a lot of these movies, they really go woke and they go broke. There's no denying that. Terminator Dark Fate, prime example. Ghostbusters 2016, prime example. And The Rise of Skywalker may very well be the latest example of this. And it seems like Hollywood just doesn't learn from their mistakes at all, and they just don't care about the box office results. They just want to keep pushing their agenda as far as they can to where it reaches as many people as they can, essentially. They not only do this with the movies, but they do this at award shows now quite a bit. They do this in a lot of books and novels now that are connected to movies. I mean, it just keeps going on forward. So, like I say, that's my main problem, is that they focus on this more so past proper storytelling. That's my main and only issue here, is that they focus on that. So, with that being said, the fact that they, cut scenes because they wanted to cater to that actual message and how they wanted to focus on real-world conflicts. We're not going to a Star Wars film to be reminded about real-world conflicts. We've seen a great example of this somewhat in The Last Jedi, like I just said, in the Canto Bight sequence with the horses and all, and, a lot of fans were kind of upset and annoyed about that. But with The Rise of Skywalker, it really seems like that since this movie is now only 142 minutes, which, by the way, is less than The Last Jedi. This movie is shorter than The Last Jedi, mind you, and just a little bit longer than that of The Force Awakens. A lot of fans want to see as much content as they can that's not affiliated with Disney's agenda. So I think it's going to be an interesting experience to see on the big screen, what it's going to look like, and how the fact that they are inserting lots of comedy in this movie as well, that's another thing. Additionally speaking, they're adding in a lot of comedy to this movie, well more than The Last Jedi's comedy, which I think is yet another recipe for disaster, but that's just my take on things. So the last thing I just want to say here is that this movie, 2 weeks away, we got the premiere over in Japan on December 11th. We got the other premiere over here in the States in Los Angeles on the 16th. And there are going to be others out there as time flies by. Now, the thing is that's when we're going to get to know more about the reactions of the film and to get an idea of what people, the critics, actually think about this movie. Hopefully it'll be a bit more truthful this time than The Last Jedi's reactions. We'll have to wait and see. So anyways, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this situation related to the rise of Skywalker and these scenes on the world of Exegol and the Tantive 4, you name it, being associated with Disney's agenda and everything else that comes along with it. So drop a comment below, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No hiding from night to moon.